Hello, welcome to the Daily Telegraph NRL Podcast. Adam Mobbs here, and what a difference a week can make. 7 days ago, Cronulla were sliding backside out of the top 8 race. The Rabbitohs were making a move, and the Roosters were just going to be cannon fodder for anyone coming their direction. But after this weekend's results, that's all going to change. Russell Jackson, Paul Crawley, welcome aboard. I can't pick this NRL competition anymore. I've just about given up in my tipping comp.
Oh, mate, it was hard on the weekend. Look, I went for a couple of upsets thinking the Titans maybe against the Warriors, and I went the Dolphins against the Knights. They all come down to the wire, but yeah, the favourites got home there. I was shocked at Cronulla's performance, and I was equally shocked at Souths, who were completely disappointing.
I can exclusively reveal on that game that Phil Buzz Rothfield, Cronulla Sharks season ticket holder, loved his Sharkies forever and ever. For the first time in 2.5 years, did not tip the Sharks at the weekend, it came back to bite him on the bum.
You know, the funny thing was, I was only thinking of Buzz during the game because in a recent article during Origin with his one-on-ones with Crash Craddock, he said there's 2 rules in tipping. I always pick the Sharks and I always pick New South Wales. Well, there you go. Well, solid as a rock.
He's cracked under the pressure. He's cracked under the pressure because he was equal last in the tipping comp with Cooper Cronk. And I know he's been comping a little bit. No, Buzz had 5 this weekend. I think Cooper only got 2. But six would have almost been put down the glasses, Russ. Yeah. This is it. You can't cash me from here.
Fantastic, yeah. Oh, look, I was shocked by those performances that you mentioned, but also the crackdown that wasn't a crackdown. Starting on Thursday night, I nearly fell off my chair at the SCG when Nathan Brown was sent off. I just couldn't. I thought, what's going on here? Straight away, I think the crowd was whispering, crackdown.
Crackdown. He was on 30 seconds. He ran out of the line and you thought maybe it's that note that Val didn't get till it was too late about running out of the line. And then Friday night, Mo Fodawaker follows and you think, oh, God, it's just got all the ringing of alarm bells from a Magic Round crackdown that didn't eventuate over the weekend.
But it's so inconsistent, Mobsy, because then you get Tom Burgess who only gets sin-binned. Yep. So the other 2 are sent off. Burgess gets sin-binned. Meanwhile, Jerome Luai, nothing. Not even a penalty, mate. In fact, they got a 6 again. They got a 6 again. It got called back. Nothing happens. Put on report. He gets a fine. The other bloke gets 3 weeks, Tom Burgess. Like, it makes no sense, and it infuriates fans because why should Jerome Luai, just because he's not one of the big enforcers, get off with a lesser charge when he copped Nelson Asofa-Solomona directly in the head, jumped into the tackle? And it was as bad as the other tackles, yet he gets a $3,000 fine, the other bloke gets 3 weeks.
It wasn't a tackle. I mean, he just jumped in there with the shoulder, arm by the side. That's not a legal tackle, and I don't understand how or what the bunker does anymore.
And using their own verbiage.
They intervened to put him on report. Yeah. I assume that's what happened. But
they did.
Why didn't they intervene to take a little bit more action than that?
Direct contact with the head, it's forceful, you're off. Now, we've heard that plenty of times, and that was direct contact and forceful. I'm not saying send off by any means, but the fact that it wasn't picked up in run of play.
Well, it was picked up because they went back to put it on report. Jerome, you're on report. Meanwhile, Marata Niukore, like David Fafita ignites that little melee. He gives him a little push in the head, and that's 10 minutes. That's 10 minutes.
That was embarrassing.
Well, it is when you consider the other bloke launches his shoulder at it directly at a bloke's head, jumps off the ground, and nothing.
And I don't know where to even start on that one because common sense seems to go out the window. Oh, it's contact with the head. It's retaliating. I don't get it. But anyway, look, judiciary report in this morning. No charge for Zac Lomax for the alleged head slam on Andrew Davey at Parramatta. Although Jack Wighton has been charged, he will escape suspension, but he's been fined $3,000 for contrary conduct towards a match official. Now, I want to get your thoughts on this because he's allegedly told referee Peter Goff, after being hit with a penalty for that high tackle with, a minute to go, whatever it was, "You're trying hard to give this to them. You're trying hard. That was a good tackle." Goff replied, "If you want to stay on the field, stop." And this comes a month after Reece Walsh was given a 3-game ban for his foul-mouthed tirade at Chris Butler, And shortly after, Nico Hines was found to have no case to answer after holding up the three fingers at the touchy for.
So Jax is probably in the middle of both, isn't it? Really, because Walsh used expletives like Nico holds his three fingers up, and Jax says what Nico wanted to say.
Well, Nico's
he's probably lucky he didn't get a suspension, but
so Nico's saying it's three decisions I disagree with. He sits there and says this. I think he's saying to the referee that you're being biased. You're trying to make them win. That's
exactly 100%.
100%.
You're questioning their integrity.
100%.
To get away with
these referees won't get any respect. They cop this. He should have been sent off and he should have been suspended. That's not on. And he should have thanked them for letting the forward pass go as well, Jackson. But they need to take stronger action against that. That's bad.
But you know what? If we go back to the start of the season when Josh Reynolds sat there and yelled bullshit to the ref on the sideline and initially the match review committee left that alone, there was a bit of a blow-up coming from here and suddenly he did get a charge, even though I think it was only a fine.
Yeah.
But it's almost like they're letting these ones slide through to the keeper, like you say, and it's not right, mate. It's not right because I don't care what the NRL players say. They're out there and they're setting an example.
Yeah.
And you can't question a referee's integrity. And 100%. What he's done there, you're right, Russ. That's exactly what he's done.
It should be unacceptable, and I just hope we don't see a crackdown next week on this. So somebody says, "Oh, bullshit about a decision," and righto, off you go. Yeah. Off you go, bench player who we've never heard of. Off you go. But honestly, I just hope that doesn't happen. And if you're listening, NRL, please, no crackdowns.
I think that's worse than expletives. Yeah. I think questioning integrity is a lot worse, and because you're accusing him of cheating, essentially.
Yeah, but at the time, in respect to the Walsh one, the referee thought he was yelling those words, even though there's an argument that he was yelling it at Pat Carrigan. The referee thought those words were being yelled at him, and that is completely unacceptable, as is this. Yeah. But that's the next degree. Can we talk about the Zac Lomax tackle on Andrew Davey, please?
Yes.
How does that not get a charge? Yeah. How in a day and age where we are pulling up high tackle shots and we're supposed to be looking after head injuries and trying to stop these sort of actions, that tackle is not judged a head slam. Mate, it was a two-man tackle. He's picked him up. That's an action. If you watch enough of Zac Lomax play, that is an action that he does regularly. He's always picking the bloke up and smashing him into the ground. And I often watch him and think, how lucky is he that he's got off there? But this one I thought was just a dead set slam dunk.
Yeah.
And to hear that hasn't been a charge, well, I'm pretty sure I know what it was. I reckon everyone that was watching it, who was calling the game yesterday? Was it Vossi calling that game?
Yeah, I think so.
Or Warren Smith? I think it was Warren Smith on that game. It was a head slam.
Yeah.
He said it. Blocker said it.
Yep.
Everyone that was watching, I ring you, Russ. What do you think? You think the same, mate?
Yeah.
Yet they try and con us and say it's not a charge.
Yeah.
And that's not tough. That's not being tough in a tackle.
No.
You know,
it's dangerous. It's dangerous contact.
It's a dangerous tackle. It's forceful high contact. Yeah, the contact is his head smashing, his back of his head smashing in the ground. How that doesn't tick that box of forceful high contact.
And the action of it, the action of the tackle where he gets there and he absolutely smashes him into the ground.
Yeah, he did the same to Corey Allen, Cogra, Roosters Corey Allen, and it led to the stink that where Victor Radley headbutted blocker Laurie. Remember, Radley went over and grabbed Lomax by the throat.
Yes.
Maybe if they had punching still in the game and they allowed Victor to throw one, maybe Zac might have stopped doing this sort of nonsense. But for the match review committee to not give anything to this, there's no sanction is I think it's embarrassing. It's a really dangerous tackle.
Yep.
And Davey's very lucky. So how is he? How's he at the moment? Do we know?
Well, he returned to the game. He went off for a HIA, but he did return to the game.
Very lucky.
He's lucky, mate.
It was heavy contact with the back of the head. So, and these guys are tough. They play on and that, but let's hope he's okay during the week. But they've got to do something about that.
Yeah,
they don't. They've just ignored it.
Ignore it again. Another one.
Yep. Still on officiating. Parramatta's Kennedy Cherrington, this is bad. She's been charged with a grade 3 dangerous throw and referred straight to the judiciary for her spear tackle on Newcastle's Laishan Albert Jones and the Eels' 38-4 loss to the Knights. That was bad. I know we talked there was no intent, there was no driving force, but tipped her upside down, hand between the legs. That could have been really, really bad.
Yeah, and very well handled. Like we've talked about the refereeing and the bunker and everything at NRL level. Belinda Sharp handled that beautifully, very composed, explained the situation to Kennedy. You got to go.
Yeah,
and you have to go for that.
Kennedy Cherrington immediately remorseful crawls for her actions, but I don't know if that's going to save her when it's a grade 3 dangerous throw and you're straight to the judiciary.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate one. I'm just looking at the photo in the paper and she's landed directly on her head. Like, that's a sickening landing. Mistakes happen in rugby league. They really do. And if you show remorse and you genuinely didn't mean it, well, it is what it is. But again, you have to have tough punishment so it doesn't happen again.
Yep.
Will the NRLW judiciary take into account that the competition is 10 weeks long?
Well, they did last week, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's fair, though, Moxie.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's it. If a 2-week suspension's 20% of the season. So 20% of a 27-round comp is your 5-6 matches. So
I think that's fair. Otherwise, you have to put things in context. And that decision last week, initially you think, well, that's light. But then when you put in context the length of the season, it's probably appropriate.
Yep. Geez, bad for Parramatta. I don't know if they're going to get a win up this NRLW season. It's been tough going for them.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, it sure has. And, well, look, let's hope for Kennedy Cherrington's sake she'll be back. I'm sure. I can't see her getting rubbed out for the rest of the regular season. Maybe 2 or 3 matches. But, they desperately need something there, Para. A couple of players still to come back, haven't they? So a couple of their signings, Rachel Pearson's a big one that's still not playing. They desperately need some direction, that team. But, tough times for the Eels NRLW team.
Now, what about this congested ladder that's going on at the moment? Because, I mean, my goodness, the Roosters putting paid to the Eagles' very slim finals hopes, showing that they can really play spoiler over the next few weeks' crawls with that victory. So I think you mentioned in your column today that they've got a couple of really poignant games, one playing Parramatta coming up soon, and the other one a final round clash with South Sydney. And as you alluded to, imagine if the carrot for that game for the Roosters. Look at the grin on Russell's face.
The Roosters have 4 games to go, a potential 8 points. They're on 20. They could finish on 32, but the for and against is going to beat them.
Yeah,
I don't think that they can get into the 8, even if they win over the 4 weeks.
So
but
explain this last round.
Well, Parramatta got their win yesterday, so that helps them. But they're still in 9th spot on 26 points. Like, they've got to win their games.
So they've got to buy. They'll go to 28 in that last round.
And then they've got another 2 wins they need. The Roosters could potentially knock them out, but with South, there's a serious... that could, be the last round blockbuster that knocks both teams out of the competition.
Could you imagine that Book of Feuds chapter if in the last round the Roosters up against the Rabbitohs with a final spot on the line at that stadium, which hosted 2 games in... they played each other 2 times in back-to-back weeks, was it last year? Or just twice in 3 weeks?
The other joint, the last game was, I think...
Or are they at a call this time round?
I think it is a South game, actually.
Yeah, I think it's a South game.
But they didn't move that to... let's have a little look. But what
that's definitely a South game, because I was at a function recently and they were giving away... South were giving away the tickets to the final round game, and I'm sure it was at a call.
And tough times for South with
it is a call.
With their middles. The middles with Tom Burgess facing, if he takes the early plea, which I think he will, but who knows. Regular season over for him. They've shipped Liam Knight off. Down on
I had a very good friend of ours, I won't mention his name, who's a massive South fan, and he was talking about the Tom Burgess incident yesterday as opposed to Jerome Luai, and that's what gets everyone so upset, because on one hand you've got Tom who's facing 3 weeks and the other guy a fine. It kills you. On South's performance, though, in the fair income stakes, Cronulla were very good. But gee whiz, South were ordinary. Like Latrell was wasn't having his greatest night. Some of those passes to young Tyrone Munro on that edge, and Cody was basically unsighted. Did he finish with one run?
One run, 4 metres.
One run, 4 metres from Cody Walker, who tore Queensland apart in Game 3.
And the other concern is Jai Arrow with that back issue. I know they were trying to play that down, but gee, he looked in a lot of pain.
Hey, I was watching that, and I was hoping you were watching it, Mobsy. Remember one day I couldn't come in, and I had a back spasm, and I literally couldn't move? That's what it felt like. It was shot, mate. I couldn't stand up. You thought I was having a sickie. That was it.
Do you want me to add to your sick note a video of Jai Arrow and say...
Mate, that is dead set what I was
Exhibit
like.
A.
And where it come from and where it went, I'll never know.
His head onto the Jai Arrow.
That's right. We still haven't got to the bottom of that.
No, because it dead set came from nowhere and it disappeared. I was sitting in the hospital emergency waiting for my turn about 3 or 4 hours later, and suddenly it was all good.
And I'm messaging you, going, toughen up, get to work.
They thought I was conning them too.
Will HR cop this? What were they? I'd be interested to hear what HR think about this.
Mate, the moment I saw that and the absolute agony was in, I was thinking, I know how you're feeling, Jai.
I'm ringing Mobs.
Well, I'm sure as much as our listeners want to hear more about Crawley's antics at the casualty ward.
I want to talk a little bit more about the Roosters for 1 second, though. Billy Smith's performance on Thursday night. Yeah. Gee whiz, that kid can play. He's got his confidence now, and he tore the young Manly kid, Cooler. Yeah. Absolutely.
He's a big, strong kid. Good palm.
Yeah.
And you're right, he's growing in confidence. Manu was a lot more involved.
Yes. Wasn't he?
Poor old Brad Parker over on the edge, copped a knock, and then next tackle he's
what about that? Siwa Wong head clash, then Joey Manu.
I tell you
what, powerful.
I'll start at the top with this. Billy Smith, after... You know, we've seen these players in the game who have injury after injury, and you wonder if they're ever going to get right. Watching him play the other night just filled me with a lot of joy. Not a Roosters fan, don't particularly like your club, and, I've got a lot of issues with you winning that many titles and being so successful, but that kid, watching him play and being in the form he was in was great to see, for starters. Number 2, Siwa Wong, what about the physique on this kid? My goodness.
Yeah, he's a weapon.
Dear me.
Yeah, he's really benefited from time. They gave him time, played him in the middle, didn't they? As in
At
reserve
the start
grade.
of this year.
He started on the edge, and then they put him in the middle. He looked a bit out of his depth in the trials on the edge, but whatever they've done with him, the part of the master plan was play him in the middle for a bit, and he is a serious weapon.
Patience as well.
Yeah,
you haven't seen
very
much
patient.
In first grade. We've been thinking every week, when are we going to see him? When are we going to see him? And patience with these kids to make sure they're developing at the right rate.
Yep.
And
it's a credit to the Roosters too with Billy Smith and also Billy Smith, because is it 3 knees, Russ?
Yeah, I think it's 2 or 3.
2 or 3, yeah. So he's gone through absolute, personal, sacrifices and everything like that. But they've been patient. They've obviously believed in his ability, and now you've got to the stage where, he's developing into a real weapon.
Yeah. It's like a new signing for your club, isn't it? Really,
It really is. Yeah.
Speaking of new signings, on the flip side, Matt Lodge for Manly, that ACL didn't look good, did it?
Shocking luck.
It's
sad because it happened at the start of the game. Was it a knee collision with Lindsay Collins?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
And now he's gone. He's off contract next season. It makes it very hard. You don't want to see that happen to anyone, and it's rotten luck.
I thought same thing when he was being off contract. That's a hammer blow as well.
Oh yeah.
Who's going to pick him up for 12 months on rehab? Oof.
And can we talk about the forward passes?
Yes.
I didn't see any. What are you referring?
Well, I'm referring to the Jack Wighton forward pass to Sebastian Chris that happened right in front of the touch judge. And I don't know what Annesley's going to come out and say about this. No doubt in the world he'll probably say it wasn't a howler. It was line ball. It was a howler. And what I don't understand, I can understand how a touch judge can miss that, and I can understand in the run of play how the ref can miss it. But what I can't get my head around is why the bunker that's sitting there with far better screens and technology in front of them than we have at home, and everyone that's watching that at home can see in the act of scoring. Now, I'm not saying go back every single time, if there's a marginal pass at the ruck, let it go. But when you're going to review every try as it is, and the bunker goes over it again and again and again, if there is a clear forward pass, Why can't the bunker rule on that?
Yeah.
In try-scoring situations, instead of letting it develop into another controversy that's so easily avoided.
What happens when a forward pass leads to a line break and they get tackled and they score 2 plays after?
Well, I don't think I think there's a lot of opposition against the bunker coming in the run of play. But I'm saying in a try-scoring situation where it actually goes through to the keeper and it's being reviewed, why can't we? Because we can rule on offside. So they can make a determination if the ball's gone forward.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, sort of...
What's their reason, though, for not... Why don't they do that? Why? What's their reason?
I guess their concern is that they've been talking about bringing in technology for probably as long as I've been reporting on the game, 30 years, and they never quite get there.
Yeah, right.
But they will say, in the old days, they used to say there wasn't enough camera angles to give a right determination. But these days, there's so many cameras at the ground, but they keep going back to the fact that they just think it will open up another can of worms. I don't agree. I think on the blatant forward passes, you've got a rule on them, surely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. The bunker's there to stop the howler in all sports, right? That's what it's there for. So that yesterday, the Jack Wighton pass was a howler.
Yeah.
It's a headache the NRL shouldn't have today. You shouldn't have it. They can cop a whinge from somebody in the Canberra setup and might say, that wasn't forward. That's as bad as it gets. Yeah. Most people are looking at that and say, well, that was a forward pass.
See, in fairness to Canberra yesterday too, Appy put that kick through and Luke Brooks looked to be offside, but I went back and tried to freeze that and it was hard to tell. Like, I call that a line ball. You know, like, I don't say that was a howler, but the other one was clearly forward.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I know people always say, well, it evens out in the end. It doesn't. And for the Tigers yesterday, that loss, and they ended up finishing, was it 4 points down?
Yeah.
And that's a 6-point try. They win that game. Potentially, they don't get the wooden spoon. That's what it comes down to. I just think it's avoidable.
Yep.
How do you find the Raiders form-wise heading into the finals? Where they're sitting, there's still an outside hope of a top 4 finish. I think unlikely there. Their for and against isn't great because they're not blowing teams away and they struggle to get over the line against the Tigers, who seem to just stack up well against them. How do you think they're going to go in September?
It's a miracle that the Raiders are sitting 5th on the ladder when you watch their games every week and the roller coaster that it is throughout the entire 80 minutes. And I can't remember them having a comfortable win. No. Like, every week's the same. Every game's the same. The last time they played the Tigers, it was the same. Last week, think back to the Warriors. You know what I mean? Like, they're an up and down side within 80 minutes, but they do find a way to win. And I don't know if they can turn it around. They really have to cut their errors out. And just the poor discipline plays. Like, even yesterday at the start of the game, they had a really good get-out set, got a good kick away, great chase, tackled the bloke a couple of metres off the try line. The referees yelled, held. Hudson Young goes through to the tackle, rips him to the ground. The next 10 minutes, all they do is defend. Yeah. They've got to get that out of their game. But, Mobsy, it's a credit to the Raiders when you look at their team on paper, even yesterday against the Tigers, and you match them up man on man, and the way that they have developed this squad from within, it's a real credit to the Raiders. And I'm telling you now, if they had a class hooker like Appy Coruscant, I truly believe they are a premiership contender.
Yeah.
But at the moment, they've just got a few chinks in their armour.
We guys like Seb Chris, who suffered that hamstring injury yesterday.
He's a big loss.
He's a local kid, you know. You've got Smith Shields, who Parramatta wanted, kids that are... Yeah, they are developing...
Jack Wighton's been there since he was 16. Josh Papali's been there his entire career. Joey Tapine came as a young guy from Newcastle. Yeah. Aside from Elliot Whitehead, they've pretty much built from within. Matt Timoko is another that they've got as a young schoolboy, and they're, if Sebastian Chris out next week, they'll probably bring Brad Morcos up. Another guy. All these guys have come through the system. They haven't gone and purchased high price recruits. Yet they're sitting 5th on the ladder, equal points with the Melbourne Storm, who they play this week. It's a real credit to Ricky Stewart. He doesn't get enough credit for what he's done with that squad.
Yeah. Well, and all the criticism when they missed the 8, and you're sitting there, they're sitting pretty now. And he said this last week when they lost that game. He said, "Look, we shouldn't Our performance was terrible, but we've put ourselves in this position to absorb that loss and then move on, and which they've done. So now the big test comes this week because is it too early for the Melbourne Storm to hit the go button on Ryan Pappenhausen?
Probably after one game. I'd leave him a week or two. I didn't see the game on the weekend, but he's been out for so long. Give him time to get his confidence. Another thing on the Raiders yesterday too, the first half completions, I think it was 13 of 23. Was that the figure? I think it was. Wow. But it was shocking.
Yeah.
And that's a thing that you're not going to get away with that against the Storm or the Panthers or even the Warriors a couple of weeks ago, you know what I mean, or the Broncos. They've got the potential to win these games, but they have to be on their game.
Yeah, and the Storm on the bounce back too.
Storm were disappointing, though.
Yeah,
Russ.
they were. With Hughes back this week,
I'll have to check.
And
Xavier Coates was the other one.
Coates
out
as well, yeah.
But again, go back to that game and against the run of play the other night, they got the jump. They got that try, and then Christian Welsh threw that, was it second or third tackle offload coming out of his own end, and the Panthers just pounced, and they're such a disciplined team.
Yeah. And Pappenhausen, Doggy, Dean Ritchie spoke to Frank Panisi about Pappenhausen, and he played 40 minutes for the Falcons. The plan is to ramp up his minutes next weekend for the Falcons. I don't know how many minutes that's going to be, potentially 60. I don't think they're looking at him playing a full game yet, but that would be probably the week after. So maybe we're about maybe last round of the regular season, we might see Ryan Pappenhausen maybe as a 14 or something like that.
Another really good player to see back playing footy, hopefully. So that's good. Can we just mention the Broncos briefly? Because when they lost Adam Reynolds, I thought they were a good thing to beat the Cowboys on the weekend, given the Cowboys had lost Val Holmes and they were a little unsettled. And then Reynolds is a withdrawal, and I thought, here we go. But it goes to show the maturity of guys like Ezra Mam and Jock Madden, because they lose this game last year, Crawls.
They do.
Without Adam Reynolds.
I'm with you, Mobsy. When that news came through from Kevy Walters' press conference on Friday, I'm thinking, geez, I wish I could change my tip. But Jock Madden got his chance. He's a terrific young player, Jock Madden. You know, I've been kind of watching him since he was in the Australian schoolboys side. I think he was the Australian schoolboys captain his year. He was at Newcastle. He comes from Scone, and then he went to the Tigers, and he never really got his fair opportunity there, but he's grafted his way along. He's gone up to the Broncos knowing that he's going to play second fiddle to Adam Reynolds and Ezra Mam, and he got his chance on the weekend, and he was terrific. And it showed again that the Broncos are not a one-man band. No. You know, just as Penrith have shown in recent weeks, they've gone past that, Mobsy.
Yeah.
And they've got strike across the park. I was impressed with the way, I think it was 5 or 6 of their forwards have run 100-plus metres in that game. Like, they're a serious football team.
Yeah, the electrifying speed at which they do things as well. It's just like Reece Walsh, we all know, and Selwyn, like just the pace, Ezra Mam. It's just so exciting to watch. You know, they just feast on breaks, don't they? Any break, and there's just 3 or 4 guys pushing up, and they've in their forwards, they've got some. Pat Carrigan is just outstanding. What a player he is. But yeah, great team to watch, the Bronx.
Well, and this is it. 4 points clear of the Warriors as it stands. So, all going well, they don't leave Queensland until grand final day if they make it.
Wow.
Which is a massive boost. As far as if they finish finals, you know, your home final first week, straight through the prelim final, and then you come down to Sydney for the GF if you make it. And who's going to rule out a Panthers Broncos grand final, which would be an amazing clash, you know? And Adam Reynolds up against the Panthers again, you know, grand final would be interesting. They're so good to watch. Buzzers was talking about it over the weekend with how the salary cap's going with the Broncos and thinks there's going to be a squeeze there. Tell you what, if I was someone like the Raiders with Jack Wighton money, Ezra Mam, come on down.
I was only thinking about that this morning, though, Mobsy. There has to be some sort of incentives for clubs that develop players and better incentive that we have at the moment, because you've got a guy there, am I correct in saying he's been in the Broncos system since he was 13? And so they've put 8 years of development into this kid, and he's just come of age, and suddenly there's this, you know, this avalanche of interest from outside for clubs saying, he could be the answer for us. He should be playing at the Broncos. I wrote a column about it last week, how you'd love to have a draft in the NRL.
Yeah.
And there has to be a fairer system. But in instances like this, there's got to be greater reward for developing talent, especially going that far back.
You'd never beat Penrith if that was the case.
You would if it worked with a draft, but there has to be greater incentives.
Oh, yeah, but, okay, so you don't want Ezra Mam at the Raiders, right?
Well, he'd be good at the Raiders. He would be, mate. He'd be good at the Roosters, Russ, would he? Would he or not?
Oh, look, I'm just thinking of him and Sam Walker working together. That'd be a pretty exciting combination.
He's also great at the Broncos.
Yeah.
He's... Any change to your thoughts on who makes or who misses that 8? Because, the Knights just got away with it against the Dolphins, didn't they? They were...
Dolphins do that every week, though. The Dolphins shot themselves in the foot many times. They should have won that match. They got out to a 10-point lead, and almost in a blink it was gone.
And they're the slow starters of the competition. So when they go in with a half-time advantage, you think, oh, hang on a second, and which should have been greater, actually, at that point with the sin bin from the Dolphins.
Ponga's such a player, though. He can light up the field just in the blink of an eye, and he's in such rare form at the moment and the Knights have got a great run heading into the back end of the year. On the Dolphins, I'd love to see Hammer back at fullback, but I guess they've got to wait to see if Ewan Aiken's back maybe this week, I think. But he just got moved to fullback late in the game, and you kind of look at the impact Ponga's had and the impact that's been, significantly reduced playing Hammer in the centres, and you'd kind of wish he was at fullback too. But I think the Knights are going to get there, mate.
I think they keep winning. And their run home looks pretty good.
Yeah, we've got the Dogs on Sunday in Newcastle, so there's a good start.
Well, they've got the Bulldogs, the Rabbitohs, the Sharks, the Dragons, and all games in Newcastle. I'll tell you what, the Eels, the Cowboys, and the Rabbitohs, they're in a tough fight there. What about this? Going to be a big loser out of that.
Yeah. What about this try scoring table at the moment? Dominic Young, 19 games, 20 tries. Jermaine Asako, 20 games, 19 tries. Alex Johnson, 20 games, 19 tries. Khan Pereira, 19 games, 18 tries. Ravalawa's day out yesterday. He's now on 18 tries. And Dallin Watini-Zelezniak up on 17 tries. There's some amazing finishes in the game at the moment, isn't there? And each with different things, But speed, skill. Asako's been tremendous for them, for the Dolphins, and he was great again at the weekend. And then the Warriors the other night with that. How Dallin got that ball away to set one up, and then he scored one late on himself. Looking really, really good. Righto. Well, we might wrap things up because we've got to get in and do some work crawls. You need to get a column out of the way.
Got time.
Well, we'll do it all again. Thanks, Russ. Thanks, Crawls.
Thank you.
We'll talk again later this week when the B team of Phil Rothfield and Michael Carianis are back in the studio.